just managed to get in touch with Ben. He had exactly the same problem. He had to take his skeg off, and he too said it's one of the worst jobs he did on the boat. Had to use heat guns. He said it was an absolute bastard of a job. Well folks, it's haul out day today. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because it was only last year we did a complete breakdown of how the whole tractor trailer system works here. So if you're interested in that, go and check out last year's video. We'll put a little link in the description. But essentially what I like to do, irrespective of whether you're hauling out or coming into a marina, is to have lines on both sides at each corner and also amidships. Now this sounds like it's a bit overkill, but sometimes what happens is you may think you're tying up on the port side, but actually at the last minute you tie up on the starboard side. Or there could be a current or even some wind that blows you sideways and the unexpected can happen. So what I've done is, even though we're not tying up, I have put fenders on the port side because that is where their jetty is should we need to tie up there first. And then I have lines, one corner down there, one amidships and one at the front. The lines at the front stay forward, so Liz will stay at the bow. They'll normally be the first one she'll throw to the guys who'll probably be in the water, and then she'll walk back to amidships. We may have to throw out amidships. The ones at the back, as I said, I actually bring those forward so they are also amidships, which saves either Liz or myself having to run to the back of the boat and instead just lean out from the cockpit to hand those lines as well. So that's it in theory. A little bit rolly today. It's not bad. It could be a lot worse. Now we're just going to wait for Peter to give us a call and say they are ready for us. So fingers crossed. Okay, we're in the slip. Quite a bit of shouting going on, mainly from me. We didn't make the first attempt because I put it to astern and the boat kicked sideways. I was just conscious of the fact that last time we came in we actually touched bottom, only gently, but I was trying to avoid that. Obviously going too slowly to have any steerage, plus there's a bit of swell pushing us to starboard. But anyway, second attempt, we're in. Lots of shouting, but good work from the man with the great big pole. His job is to stand there and push the stern of the boat over. Okay, update from Peter. There's a bit of sand. What they tend to do is every time they haul, they have to blast the runway with sand because, of course, there's a lot of movement of sand with the strong tides that they have here. The currents which change the contour. Every time we go for a walk down the beach with the dogs, the shape of the beach is always changing, and so it dumps a lot of sand here. And Peter says that there's quite a bit of sand under the trailer, which is why it's slipping. So I think they're going to give it a blast and maybe also put a winch on the front of the tractor to help pull it forward. I think that's what they're doing. But they're certainly going to try and give it a blast. We've got time. I don't think high water's for another hour yet, so I think we're okay. Just saw one of the yard workers there walk across with a hammer in his hand. Remember, if in doubt, hit it with a hammer, and that's exactly what he's doing. Now, one thing that we were discussing earlier among ourselves and with Arno, who's the one of the managers here, is what we do about the anti-foul. Because we've no idea how long we're going to be out the water. It could be 1 week, it could be 1 month, it could be longer. So we only anti-fouled this time last year. In fact, it was even later than that, 9 months. The condition of the anti-foul is in good nick. So I think in an ideal world, if we could have a light jet wash just to get rid of the slime, and then assume that we're going to put at least one coat on before we go back in. I don't really want to be jet blasting all of the anti-foul off, so if we can get away with just providing a key for one coat, I think that would be preferable. I mention that because that's the jet wash is next after they get us out. We'll go and sit over there and they'll jet wash us, but hopefully at that point we can get off the boat. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is always the interesting bit. How's everything look? Happy to say the prop 1 it was that we put on has held up pretty well. Have a look at this.
You can still see the prop 1. I think you can still see it on here, this colour. There's the anode. Great. Really good. Really good.
So look at that anti-foul. That is Chigoku for you. No, 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 no. He's starting to chip away at the prop one. So look, the deal is this. Obviously with prop one, what I've found in the past, prop speed, prop one, doesn't matter what you put on your prop. If you get a barnacle and you chip it off, you then reveal the bare metal underneath, and that will encourage more growth. And I've found actually chipping off barnacles is the worst thing to do, and that is what he was about to start doing, was to chip off the barnacles. So that's why I was shouting at him. He was literally about to start, so didn't want him to do that. So looking at the hull and the anti-foul, well, I mean, that's okay. It's only 9 months or so since she's been in the water, but we knew that Chigoku is the best performing anti-foul we've ever used. We're certainly going to stick with it. Liz had a chat with Peter earlier when she was looking around the yard to find out where we were going to go, and they decided no jet wash. We're not going to have a jet wash at all. Instead, we'll put her in her cradles, and then we'll get someone over, not me, that's for sure, to give it a light sponging down so we get rid of the slime. But you can see there are hardly any barnacles at all. The only barnacles I can see have grown on the anode, so this is good. So I just thought I'd walk alongside the main culprit of our haul out, and that is the rudder here. You can see just behind me. So the idea is we need to drop it, but also it's got to be angled so we can take it off its hinges just here. And the stock, which is the post, that goes all the way up to the deck, because that's where we attach our emergency tiller. So it's quite a drop. So talking to Peter about the angle at which we're going to put Esper, normally what Peter does is he tends to angle boats on a slight 2-degree incline with the bow up. But in this instance, because we need to drop the rudder and we'll probably have to dig a hole, we're going to go the other way. We're going to drop the bow 2 degrees down, which will kick up that back end and just give us a bit more flexibility when it comes to digging a hole to drop the rudder. Well, we're on the hard now. This is it. Life in the boatyard once more. And I'm going to show you what I've noticed in the rudder. What I did was I actually slackened off the steering cable up in the lazarette, came down below and just had a quick look, and I've noticed that when I move the rudder slightly, there is some lateral movement in the lower hinge where there is a bearing actually. So obviously we're going to drop the rudder out, which is why Esper is actually tilted slightly forwards rather than backwards. The lateral movement, I don't know if that is enough to have caused our issues. Quite possibly, more than likely it will be. So we're going to have to replace that bearing, and unfortunately I don't know what the measurements are. What I am hoping is that it is something that we can maybe get turned here, so we could get it made here rather than having to import it from the UK.
Up till this point, we'd tried levering the rudder and knocking the rudder stock from above. So in week 2, we asked our mechanic Hendro to make up a steel collar to fit around the top of the bronze fitting. Of course, this further delayed things and ended up taking another week. We spent most of week 3 whacking the fitting with brute force while trying to avoid damage to the bronze heel. This did absolutely nothing.
Week 4 in the boatyard. Do you remember when we used to do that in our refit? We'd always introduce each week with week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I was thinking, you know, when we did our refit all those years ago, by week 4 we had completely stripped Esper, and they were already starting to grind the hull, strip back the teak decks and rip out the insides. These guys have been working so hard, and we just want to show them some way of acknowledging our appreciation for what good solid workers they've been. So yeah, it's been another fantastic week, and as a conclusion to the end of the first month, couldn't be happier. Week 4 in this boatyard, and nothing has happened. Yep, we're still trying to get the rudder off. It's turning into probably our biggest nightmare since we've owned the boat, to be honest. I can't remember what I've told you already because I've actually avoided picking up the camera, but I thought I really should give you an update. I apologise for the grinding in the background, but I wanted to do this now just to give you an idea of how far we haven't got. Now this is going to be quite tricky to film because it involves lots of close-up work, but essentially the epoxy was laid, I think it was laid sort of, you know, a thick globule of epoxy like so, and we think that this is what is preventing the rudder from dropping. We're pretty certain there's nothing else in the rudder that should be preventing it from dropping. So what I've been doing is gouging out as much epoxy as possible. We started off by heating it up. I'm now putting acetone in. With a little syringe I'm using to layer some acetone in there. Acetone doesn't really work, it does a little bit, but what is interesting though is when I squeeze acetone in this bolt hole, it immediately comes out of here, which would suggest that there isn't epoxy here. So this is why I'm concentrating on the epoxy in here. So what I've done is I've gouged out a channel that's probably a few mil deep, and I've managed to get it all the way around, and yeah, I'm hoping that that will very, very slowly release what is holding that rudder in place. By the way, at this point I should say a big thank you to everyone who's helped me so far. That includes everyone on the Oyster Owners Forum, people on the PBO/YBW forum who have been extremely helpful. I even got in touch with Oyster. They were very good at explaining how this whole system works, how the rudder system works. It's a design that they have been using apparently for the last 50 years, and they've never changed it because it works. When it works, it works. They did say when it comes to taking off the skeg, you're going to have to use a bit of elbow grease, was their phrase that they used. But of course the biggest person I need to thank is Hendro, who's just turned up behind me, and it's with him that we've been sitting down and scratching our heads and trying to come up with ideas. Today, however, I managed to get in touch with our old friends Ben and Belle of Sailing Yacht Samira, who we met in Pancor. So this is Ben, who we featured last year in one of our videos. He's working with Belle on their Oyster 435, same boat as ours. And we were very excited to see that Ben has come up with a new contraption. He's getting fed up with getting covered in fiberglass particles, so he's created this vacuum suit. It's absolutely hilarious, but it works. Check this out.
I'm running out of proper gloves.
Just managed to get in touch with Ben after many years of not speaking to him. Actually, we lost contact and I had to track him down, going through a few people, and I finally got in touch with him. The good news, sort of good news, is that he had exactly the same problem. He had to take his skeg off, and he too said it's one of the worst jobs he did on the boat. Had to use heat guns. He said it was an absolute bastard of a job. So just that bit of news alone makes me feel just a little bit better. So having spoken to Ben, Ben said that he ended up cutting away half his entire skeg because he had a lot of water ingress. I'm hoping we don't have that problem, but it sounds like what he had to do is a bit more drastic than what we're proposing to do at the moment, and that is simply just to cut away a patch just here from the top of the skeg, and this will allow us to get Hendro's modified hacksaw blade, which he's cut in half lengthways, which will then allow him the angle to get down inside here. And the idea is to actually run this down inside the skeg to break the epoxy either side. I don't know if it will handle the ends, but at least we'll be able to get to the side. So that's what he's going to do now. So it's a bit of grinding, which will mean a bit of filling when we come to eventually get the rudder back on. But who knows when that will be? It could be in 5 years' time when epoxy technology is completely changed.